later.
Ode to Billy Batson. Shazam! Words become poetry, magic words, deep from the soul words, off the paved road words. Hey, is that a train? Is that a plane? No, it's words. Words on tape, written for the mind, with black and tan ink.
For moms. Someone asked me the other day, "How's your mama?" And I had to bite my lip to keep from breaking his jaw. How's your mama? Schoolyard fighting words spoken with genuine concern. She's doing fine, I had to answer. She's doing real good. She's working for the state now, as she puts it. Been at it for a year. A guaranteed position for at least one more. Complete with all the medical benefits. New glasses for her eyes. Cream for her eczema. Medication for her glaucoma and elevation for her gout. Yes, I guess I have to say she's doing fine. She's doing real good. She was lonely for a little while, but Jesus keeps her company now. He protects her from jealous young lovers who knock the teeth out of the mouths of the women they love, and misguided motorcyclists who crash through barroom walls, and prune-pricked abortionists who beat pregnant women with rifle butts, and low-life necrophiliacs who drop Mickeys in women's drinks in search of a corpse, and antiquated invalids who bitch so much that it takes a pistol to silence them. Yes, I guess I have to say she's doing fine. She's doing real good. Her mind is coming back, too. She knows where she slept last night and where she left her teeth. She remembers what she did last week and the week before that. The snakes no longer visit her room. Her purse no longer whispers its threats. She no longer greets piss-yellow sunrises and garbage-strewn alleys or disinterested paramedics with more important lives to save. Yes, I guess I have to say she's doing real good.
Eastside story. The streets of the Eastside are empty. All the homeboys are retired, hung up their Pendletons, and are naked, sleeping. Their dreams are restless and violent. The colors are midnight blue 57s, pearlescent white Impalas, an occasional Riviera, black with shining chrome. Blue and red bandanas tied around foreheads through hair, awnings over tightened eyebrows. They reach through inner city barbed wire trying the crowbar, hoping this time the lock will break. On the other side of the night, the rival gang sings a rap song about the death of their enemies, about the walls boasting names like El Gato, named for the cool way he struts and the green that lights his eyes before the fight. Loco, named that for his crazy laughter and his value for the lives of others. And the one they call Puppet for his parlay skills. Yeah, the streets of the East Side are empty, and the homeboys dream. About the aftermath of a battle, red bloody hands turn into a circle, weaving lines inside it, forming red, red roses from their mother's gardens, as they watch themselves as children, playing on the grass, playing with their enemies, who in this dream are children too.
Ride, a poem to my father. Your cross, a suit and tie you wore, stepping over amber, shattered blood, in Skid Row parking lots, in Italian shoes striding by hoof-marked walls, faces camouflaged as sidewalks, past shoulders hunched on stools over steaming coffee cups, past the pasty-faced old whores, the teenage tight-ass queen, painted in pastels violent as a drunk blown out of twin-barred doors by some unseen, unforgiving punch, and beyond the haberdasher's Main Street window populated with empty hats, blank mannequin heads, past Spring, the windows at Barney's Grill fogged by stuffed cabbages, bleeding briskets, and finally right out of the shadow corridor to Broadway, its crowded bacalao and feta smells, briny wrinkled olives, sourdough, chile negro pods, grimacing dull-eyed cowheads nodding out of Grand Central Market under the $1 million, its pulsing, pointillist marquee, massive and opulent as Altar Goldleaf. Last landmark before ascending the Raymond Chandler Building, your opalescent fifth-floor window good only for silhouettes. Hovering behind you, I saw you bow the blonde copper fire, trap its dull dust on your lapsed tin tray. Your hands confined their violence to the jutting hardwood tongue, saw how the right plied, snipped, twisted with stainless Swiss-made beaks, the left thrusting moon hoops, sun hoops, into a blue flame with tungsten tweezers, felt the drill's high-speed scream, the burst of cloud volumes vented on a violet pupil, while chemical insults made our heads reel, hydrochloric and caustic, scouring molecular pores, capillary filigree, bleaching sensation, work week by work week. Eventually, your fingers, scarred by carbide threads snapped and slanted into flesh, became flattened from so much grasping. But you endured your double's life, its unremitted bitterness, lawyers greedy as your disappointments, while you planted households, a business, an orchard in the mountains. Finally, after 39 years, you outlived the fear that rides the horse of death, and drove past the border guards in a Winnebago. Postscript. My father got his green card in the mail on June 15th, 1989.
An almost unknown soldier speaks. They were exactly what I had been looking for, and I knew that one was a steal, so for just $3, I bought two. And so it was that at a church rummage sale, I copped 2 green Army fatigue shirts, size extra large, baggy enough to hide my small paunch that had come with the extra 20 pounds, that came with my junk food and beer binges, that came from a year-long celebration of my early retirement from the world of button-down shirts, striped ties, and campy suspenders. I used a razor blade to strip off the original owner's corporal stripes and his name tag, Malcheski. But I left on the fancy shoulder patches, and after running both shirts through the wash cycle 8 times to get out the heavy military starch, they were fashionably faded and funky enough to wear with my jeans. One muggy August night, I was sitting at the bar in Murray's Tavern, where I sometimes went to enjoy the often profound, always loud, good talk of sidewalk intellectuals and street slang Shakespeares. I was guzzling the last of my first beer and vowing to start a serious diet the very next day, when a hard black hand gave me a soft, friendly slap on the shoulder, then pushed another beer in front of me. The soul brother attached to the black hand smiled, sat down noisily on the bar stool next to me, and shouted, "Here's to the horses we never kissed and the women we never rode. The Army taught me how to shoot. Airborne Rangers taught me how to win. I know your sister's kinda cute, but my M16 is my best girlfriend. Ah!" "Excuse me," I said. He pointed to the shoulder patch on my Army shirt and yelled, "104th Airborne Rangers, the Screamin' Demons. You remember, don't you, bro? Weren't you in Nam?" I blushed nervously and explained to him how I came by the shirt. He grunted, "Uh-huh," then turned from me and gazed into the mirror over the bar. His eyes explained the handshake he hadn't offered. I didn't touch the beer he had set before me, and we sat eyeing each other in the mirror. I once heard a member of the African National Congress say that those political prisoners the South African government feared most were kept isolated in separate cells, and each prisoner was assigned a guard. The guard's only duty was to sit outside his prisoner's cell and watch every move his prisoner made. The guard watched his prisoner eat, use the toilet, sleep, and bathe. And after a while, the guard's relentless eyes were not just eyes, but an idea. The idea of the total devastation of the human spirit through intimidation, hatred, and fear. And that night, glaring at me in the mirror over the bar in Murray's Tavern, was my own private jailer. I tried to stare him down, but his gaze dared me to deny what I read about myself in his eyes. I blinked first, and abruptly his raspy voice broke the rhythm of our silence. "It was a bad war, and hard to be a good soldier," he said. "Violence can sometimes rescue history from its own confusions, but Nam, just like any other bad dream, had no purpose to its ghoulishness. On hot, hopeless nights, I remember the cold, conquering corpses, comrades who paid an unfair price for their pitiful pleasures as heroes. My tears have reminisced, and my mind has argued, but such memorials are always less than the dead deserve. I served, and I survived, and luck is as good a name as any for the God who did not let me die the last death at the last moment of the last battle." And then, with a gesture intended more for my manhood in the mirror than for me, the ex-soldier touched 3 fingers to his forehead in a mocking Boy Scout salute, and then he left. I noticed that he walked with a limp and that physically he was smaller than me, but he exited with the same bravura that he had come, scraping the legs of the bar stool on the floor when he stood, slapping a $5 bill on the counter for the beer, and yelling goodbyes to his friends. Afterwards, I got up and went to the men's room. When I came back minutes later, the glass of beer he had bought me was gone. Returning home that night, the army fatigue shirt stank of cigarette smoke, stale beer, and my own cold sweat. I put it in the dirty clothes hamper with its soiled mate. Somehow, I never did get around to washing either of them, and somehow I never got around to Murray's Tavern again, either.
Lost in Los. Once it was like seeing the night for the very first time. Only someone dangled black ice cubes in front of my eyes. Each street, each story melted on a page. An upholstery shop opened past midnight. In the back, a fading light bulb persists overhead as the men gather to drink. They talk about women. Women at bus stops with slits in their secretarial skirts. Catholic girls with too much lipstick. Las nuevas santitas, cuddling school books, teddy bears, and suddenly religious boys. Muchachas bailando en bikini. I pass these joints and I must look. Possibly I am searching for those who search for the anonymous body in the pink bathing suit. I hear the trampling of their feet, men knocking doors down just to get a good look at a pair of fishnet stockings. And for every man laying out the family bills on the bar, there is another one, pale and miserable, who simply wishes he wasn't there. And the jukebox still plays, Yo quiero una muchacha como tú. Laundromats are crowded with bored children who must wait for what seems to be an endless rinse cycle. Babies drink red Kool-Aid out of plastic bottles and chew on nipples that never collapse. A woman on a bus bench rests against a smiling credit dentist as the RTD exhausts her with nicotine shock. Dr. X continues to offer easy payments and 1,000 pink receipts. At the Jack in the Box, the orange vinyl is polished to perfection by a neighborhood kid afraid to lose his first job. There are no customers tonight. I try to imagine bullet holes in the clean glass. Women still walk the boulevard swinging those blue bags from Learners, cinnamon nylons, legs like Josie Rubio. Radios blast each other on the streets of Los Angeles con salsa picante, sábado salsa y salsa el pato también. Música con ambiente y una cuba libre. And in another corner of the city, some chavalito sneaks out the screen door to play in the garage. He crawls into an old washing machine, sings himself to sleep, only he never wakes up. The Calvary Cemetery pretends to be an island too far from my reach. Still, I go with my pile of love letters to read. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Inscriptions written by friends and enemies. Too old to be a poet, too young to be a martyr. The Latin lover, the secret, the sweetheart cafe, bars, sorrow and mixed primal excitement lined up against a wall. Tight men with gray chins and skimpy suits, flexing inside their tired skin. Ashen entities too far from the planets and twice removed from any immediate family. I feel myself spilling through my fingers, breaking into little pearls of mercury, praying for rain to soothe the hot pavement, our souls, some dying lawn in a suburban postcard. The heart breaks. It breaks like an old woman's arm. It breaks like mother's china, crashing like a hopeless silver jet, hitting the ground like Hiroshima. Sir Lonely puts his shades on. His imperials pierce the moon. And so a page from the puppet zone falls over the blue night. Baby Loca carries 45s and checks out all the guys. Impalas slide around the corner in dangerous love, as 3 stars hang heavy over the east.
There are the sons and daughters of slave masters in me. The rape of my mother's womb has the master's fingerprints etched on its walls like cave paintings. I remember, the colors in the labyrinth palace of my birth.
Step down into the slave ship. Let me kiss your nipples and part the Red Sea. The last mark between then and now, I caress it. Let me sleep with you in the lion's den and amaze the kings of Babylon.
When you
Touch my scars.
are running for your life, you drop your head, hunch your shoulders, you look down and see the past. The broken pieces of glass and time passing. The cobblestone alleyways and the memories fill the brain with colored gas. Shows how it is raining in Cut City. The streets are empty. It is wet like blood. In the summer, warm and moist. Fingers pressing against your wound, a clit-like hole, you pull tight and run.
My son, he's out. I know that. Where? What is he being held for? For what?
My blood rushes into it. It gets harder. She's in the moon and the sea, the reflection of light on the Atlantic. I am crying. Each breath heaves forward like Legba in the womb of Yemanja. We only speak backwards. We can only speak backwards, and we cannot see our futures. Here, I look around the firmness of your rib cage. I come here to work you good. I want to be with you, to hold you as long as you need me to.
There are no black poets in Cut City. They have all died in fear, murdered by returned manuscripts, unread. Their poems, epitaphs for gangbangers at the funerals for our youth. Their words are read for those who cannot hear and for those who are unwilling to listen.
Don't panic. He's at the police station on warning. No! I'll go. Something's wrong. They wouldn't tell me. Where are my shoes? Shit! Stay here, woman! Baby, keep the kids. I'll be back soon. I'll call from there.
We can hold hands in this love bazaar. When? The 17th century. Up there, covered only in sweat and sun. The place of business I stand, ankles and wrists covered with iron and Ogun running in my testicles fondled, my gums and teeth inspected. Don't look back, or you will be turned into a pillar of salt. White crystals. Let me feel you against me, our legs tangled, your hands against my back. You hold me tight. I want to go into you, but I hold off to kiss the honey on your tongue, to lick at your lips. You say freedom with your eyes closed.
In Cut City, they do not read unless it is
Splattered blood.
Against a rock house wall.
Splattered blood.
On a schoolyard. And the fortune tellers remember our lynchings, and we ain't got no reason. The fortune tellers remember the auction block, and we don't have no reason. The newspapers printed in blood stained, and we ain't got no reason. In blood stained ink.
The bloody alphabet.
This is a declared war on drugs. And this is the season to fear young black men, hell, black men, period. Especially while they kill themselves. It is contagious, this virus, this violence.
What? What did you do? Is he dead? I don't understand this. Don't you know better? It ain't like I haven't tried. Work and work for you.
And a wheel in a wheel appeared. You take me gentle like I feel your fingers on me. It excites me to stiffen. I want to close my eyes, but I know I cannot trust, that I should not trust, but you rub me against your slit. I feel its wetness, the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico. I want to run. I want to run away, to escape from the lies of this moment before we make history unchangeable. You raise up like a corpse of an AIDS victim, a junkie with track marks on the flesh. I see all this in your eyes, my future.
Our future!
My future before you kiss me with your honey tongue. You say freedom again, our mouths hunger for each other.
He ain't guilty! 9 to 20 years. He's only 17. Not my boy. He is not guilty. He was fighting for his life. Trying to survive. There's a battleground in this front yard. What do you expect? I work hard, but I am still at the boot black bottom.
I see the scarification rights. I see the circumstantial evidence of how we be made a man in this nation.
There are no black poets in Cut City. There are no black poets in Cut City to write the epic sonnet about the twisted fate of these lovers stripped naked throughout history, in the noontime sun, in the noontime sun, in the noontime sun, the voyeurs concerned only with the body politic of this snuff film, of this snuff film, of this snuff film. See us hanging on southern trees, see us lynched on southern trees, see us lynched in. The young black boy took off his colors as requested by the officer. He removed the white T-shirt, so white he would not remember this was not taught in school. What was the difference?
What was the difference
between Savannah, Georgia, 1797 and LA, 1991? He removes his pants and folds them. He looks pensive at the policeman. Next, he removes his socks, and finally his jockey briefs. The officer handcuffs him again for the He pushes him forward, adjusts the water, the nozzle. You know the procedure. Puts on the rubber gloves, inserts his finger smashing the waist in his anus. The youth winces in shame. What is the difference?
What is the difference
between
New Orleans
1825
and New York,
1992,
Boston,
1776,
Miami,
1995? In Cut City, there are no black people left. There are no black people left. In Cut City, there are no Negroes left, no coons left, no jigs left, no niggas left. The Civil Rights Bill vetoed in 1990. Minority scholarships banned. What is the difference between denying an education and providing a good eulogy? There are no black people left in Cut City. An endangered species not worth saving. Their blues, their jazz, their rap sheets erased by a kiss.
resist, 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 resist.
The American Urban Camp. The economically stimulated thirst for blood, the unrelenting climate of national apathy and fear was the basic thrust of American society circa 1980. In and about the 1960s, almost 80% of the black population was living in the major urban centers. From 1973 on, during the then called energy crisis years and the awakening energy conservation movement, blacks were prevented from increasing their economic class-related imitation of non-black migration into suburban communities. It was during these years of American currency devaluation, spending restraint, inflation, oil shortages, and zero population growth that the black birth rate skyrocketed, while that of non-minority citizenry dropped drastically. There was never any open acknowledgement about the evacuation of the blacks, i.e., the extermination of the Negro people. Few non-black Americans could afford to recognize the plight of nearly a quarter of their population being slowly, systematically starved in the profoundest political, economic sense to death and remain respectable. It was the dominant Anglo-Saxon Protestant desire to rid its society of a darker people who represented the clear threat of racial extinction. During these two significant decades, black and non-black regulations became more and more stringent. Blacks were allowed neither separate but equal nor minimally adequate public and or private education. They were forbidden to excel in almost all professions. Food could be obtained primarily by the use of federal food stamps issued through the then Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. During and following the Vietnam conflict, greater police and drug inducement activity, the opiate, somnambulant social equations of alcohol, heroin, and the animal tranquilizer PCP, popularly termed booze, skag, and angel dust, took place in the urban camp and steadily increased throughout the 70s. While various historians have pointed out that the oppression of colored peoples was, in part, the responsibility of those oppressed in their failure to unite against fight said oppressor, Others have labeled the extermination of millions of blacks as an inexcusable atrocity. Black writers, creative as well as professional, poets as well as journalists of the period, were at the mercy of a tacit proclamation adhered to voraciously in many instances and subconsciously in others by television, motion pictures, newspapers and magazines, as well as major publishing houses and, to a slightly lesser extent, the art world. A. Language and literature are the purest expression of a people. B. There is at present an antagonism between American literature and the nature of black people. This situation is degenerative. C. Purity of language and literature is our national duty. D. Our most dangerous adversary in the performance of this duty is the black. E. Blacks are only able to think like blacks. When they write white, they are lying. F. We want to root out these lies. G. We consider blacks alien and take the characters of our non-black people seriously. Therefore, we demand censorship. Black works must be monitored. If they appear on television, they must appear only in comic or fantastic form. The black way of life must not be allowed to clutter the public air, public libraries, or other public communication media. The dominant culture used every possible means to bring non-blacks to consider blacks their great inferiors. Latent anti-black sentiment was formed into a powerful political weapon. Measures were taken to ban blacks from further participation in the dominant American society, condemning blacks to a hopeless economic struggle and inevitable death in the subculture of the urban camp. Approximate number of victims of the major urban concentration camps. Atlanta, Georgia, 50,000. Bergen-Belsen. Jackson, Mississippi, 92,000. Ravensbrück, Miami, Florida, 63,500. Buchenwald, San Francisco, Oakland, California, 70,000. Dachau, New Orleans, Louisiana, 138,000. Mount Hausen, Houston, Texas, 74,000. Flossenburg, Boston, Massachusetts, 100,000. Sachsenhausen, Harlem, New York City, New York, 2 million. Auschwitz, Washington, District of Columbia, 1,380,000. Medinik, Chicago, Illinois, 600,000. Belzac, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 280,000. Sobibor, Los Angeles, California, 731,000. Treblinka, Detroit, Michigan, 600,000. Chelmno, Newark, New Jersey, 67,000. Stutthof, Puerto Rico, 2,350,000. Jonestown, Guyana, 934.
Static hands grabbed strands of mother's hair and panned for milk, which God had given to the empty shell of my atheism. Will I crack before the world does?
Untitled. Rain falls through the crack where once dust rode on sun rays. It's a shanty found by drifters of all kinds. Paw tracks are left from last night by 3 black hounds playing hard, brothers with proud white markings on their chest. Drawn together by seeing the stranger in everyone, their solitude remains undisturbed. Soldiers dressed in brightly colored uniforms parading with inspiring procession. The time for their purpose is not yet, but will be struck on some shadowy shore. The naive of both worlds are the first not too innocent casualties who will lose it all when the goons of power and black dogs take action.
Caught in a crossfire of cultural rhetoric, I wrestle with my soul for peace. We say this about them, they say that about us. I say nay to both, for the truth was brought with me upon birth. The years pass and our truth is buried, lost, forgotten. I fall victim to rhetoric, choosing my side over theirs, theirs over ours, until sleep holds me. Am I reminded of my gift? Waking, my memory is cleared, donning mask of appeal. I enter the world armed, anticipating assaults. I strike with smiles, hellos, and proper speech. This ambush, so quick and fluid, confidence builds. Victory is near. In the mirror, casualties are measured. My image delivers effigies of all the me's I've destroyed. Behind my mask, I call for sleep to rescue me, to reveal my gifts in this waking state. Figures with my face lay prostrate, touched by messiahs. Now my sleep becomes a prison of images I wish not to hear, though I have little choice when my heart speaks in tongues. How am I to pass the message along when the messiahs past were never heard? A bloody human history has been prophesied. The pale rider is to collect his fruit. And I, the newly appointed herald, beseeching the revolutionaries to reject the battle, become still and let life work its magic from within. Why must my visions be so clear? The truth? The truth. I've got work to do.
Contrastes, contrasts. Interminables, interminable, silver-gray cylinders, reflecting their cool glitter against aging brown and brick-red porous rectangles, now dwarfed and anchored on Skid Row. Its slick, disinfected shadows slip over the wide matte finished corners of the collapsed tent city, as if masking los olores de vida, the smell of life, perfumed with pungent mustiness of yesterday, of living for the moment, or momentarily living, with horns, screeches, bottles breaking in harmony with the scattered motion of trafficking time, sex zombies, living hallucinations manufactured in the dream factory of the money gods. Children's cries winding up hotel staircases to numb the heavy whispers of its needled residents. Pained souls begging food from the great city's garbage dump, robbed of their essence. The invading glass giants thought their hearts lie buried under Bunker Hill, while they swept aside part of Barrio Diamond to be replaced by its daily visitors in confusing tones of black, white, and gray. They come casting their shadows, but always taking them home at day end. The diamond curse, brillantes vidriales, frees the hearts of its inhabitants, it said.
Somoza's teeth. I was 16 when that Nicaraguan summer began, when Oscar took me to the Mercedes Club, and that girl in a blue dress opened my mouth, and I tasted a woman for the first time. There was that crazy night we drank White Lightning and chased bullets down the mountain until the police shaved our heads. The speed was just beginning when Oscar smashed into the bridge and the Corolla burned like a siren melting. The killing was in full motion when a soldier shot a child climbing the fence into the stadium and the fans screamed for the dead Kennedys. The killing was in the air when the bazooka blast separated Somoza's ribcage from his head and the only survivors in the limousine were his teeth. That summer, I slept alone, waiting for a lover to break through.
Cactus Dreams. The jaguar took me safely toward the smoke-gray horizon of my 29th winter. I played the guitar as I contemplated the heavens, and the animal slept. I thought of the great dual creative spirit and fixed a mirada toward the uppermost regions of the universe, the dwelling place of the gods, Omeyocan. I'll take my chances on these Mexican nights, I spoke with defiance. My voice echoed and the wind stopped, and I wondered if the feathered serpent, angered by my audacity, had readied to club me into the abyss. I know what I'm about, I whispered, no one's sacrificial rabbit, and I pointed to the moon in jest. But the moonlight made the waters effervesce with anger, and the fields of chilahueritos looked hot and iridescent. I began to pray. Give me the courage y la fuerza, como la ruca, she of the serpent skirt. I will do what must be done, say what must be said. I will control my destiny only. Please, help me make it through this life sin tantos escándalos. Y entonces lloré por todos los wasted soliloquies offered secretly in the dark by unsuspected locos. And the jaguar, awakened by the mumbo-jumbo, leaped to the skies with the speed of light, leaving only the spots on his back for me to study, having formed a constellation. I raised my arms to the heavens, paying homage to the animal, and all around me that was concrete and earth-bound. But my arms bled as they reached for the stars through cactus dreams.
Traveling fast on the tracks. Mommy, where are we going? We're going on the train, dear. Mommy, I don't want to go on the train. Why are we going on the train? We're going with people like us that have nothing to offer in society, so they say, Daddy, Daddy, it's a train. And I don't want to have to go on the train. I heard a man say, it's not the ordinary everyday train passing your way. Going my way. Engineer behind the glass door, let me know when the tape starts rolling. I want to get trapped on the tracks. They were teachers. Traveling fast on the rails, boxcars, winos running drunk through the night. A time when people who rose in the beds and listened cannot sleep again. Hear how it goes, the sound of the wheels traveling fast, running wild through the country. One hand swing, swing with the sound of the train. And all I could hear was the sound of a harp. And a half-blind man screaming, it sure don't seem to me like we're getting anywhere. It sure don't seem to me like we're getting anywhere. It sure don't seem to me like we're getting anywhere at all. It's a train, and we just might have to thunderbolt on down the line.
Blackie was the tan one in the club, a handful of money and a heart full of love. The yellow's too high, the blues just cry, and sometimes his friends are the color of eye.
The 100th boyfriend. On my way through an urban, straight woman tradition, the promise I wanted lived and then died. I was bound to hook up with a man. So I slipped into a hollowed-out jazz solo and followed sorrow up concrete steps. A moon split by a crack down the center caught up with me. And again, the 100th boyfriend swept me into bizarre circumstances. The prince of cuddling and the demigod of orgasm got me into awkward positions, lifting laundry bags and popping blackheads. The boyfriend told a good joke. The boyfriend revealed 1,000 secret troubles hidden since adolescence. The boy's tight neck was constantly in need of a rub. His story soaked into my hands. My loneliness saturated with semen and red wine. I'm no loser, I say. My glands are busy with the work of love. I got me a man looks just like Daddy. And again, the 100th boyfriend hypnotized my vagina while I memorized his best sport. He was as strong as 2 cappuccinos, his seed smoking with electricity, a liquid vitamin that aligned my spine. The hands of the 100th boyfriend reached inside and massaged my heart and got caught on a snag and released a film of the boyfriends that got high in my head. The 17th boyfriend had a hook dick. The 25th boyfriend liked the color purple and Karl Marx. The 37th boyfriend could fuck good, and that's all. Boyfriends 45, 72, and 67 were good as guns in a street situation. Boyfriends 85 and 95 gave up beaucoup cash. I tell them all about the lunatics in the city, the maniac's silhouette that pops up in my skull. And the 17th boyfriend lost his erection. Number 68 went home. The 99th met me halfway in the slime of our trippin' and kissed my fingers and rocked me. I tell the 100th boyfriend, I've been through this before, baby. I could be peppy and upbeat with some juice and a little coaxin'. I want a flag in the belly button of the 100th boyfriend. I want the shade of the shadow of the 100th boyfriend to cool my hot ass down and stop the white noise of my mind. I aim to tattoo his memory bank, so when another number girlfriend comes along, he'll think of me when he fucks her. He'll always want me. But love is God, and we know it. And God bugs out and messes up all the time. Love, cop a attitude, and come up crazy. I snort it like cocaine. I pay too much for it. I act like it's cheap. I lost my habit and got stingy with the magic. But the 100 boyfriends were men that I loved.
Dark impressions. 5'9", tall, slender pine to 6'3", majestic mahogany. Spectrum includes vanilla caramel to deep, rich chocolate. Fried, dyed, and laid to the side. Rows and rows of natural froze. Baby, we know almost anything goes.
On second thought. I never learned to play games. Being direct is more my style. Let me give you a little advice. Let me tell you to think twice before you call me again. To give me 15 minutes to comb wet hair, brush tired teeth, paint cracked lips, pronounce deflated cheeks, chitty chitty bang bang through Hollywood streets to meet you. For a Woody Allen flick, a cup of liquid caffeine, and maybe, just maybe, an honest word or two. Huh. I've been around that block a couple of times. Coffee shop walls eavesdropping lies of truths, strangers' ears bending to laughs and sighs of people who just met fast becoming friends. But that's not the avenue I wanted to travel on this rendezvous. So if that's your intent for our next event, then let me tell you to think twice. Better yet, don't call me again. 'Cause this woman wants more than to play by the rules. She wants to step on each crack. She wants to break your back in every position like a game of Twister on a shiny kitchen floor. She wants to drape your hair across her breast, open your curtains in a crackerjack way, then look inside for her surprise. She wants you to be the man inside her woman, the man who yields right of way to a lady's desire, the man she will come for in the tradition, in the contradiction of lust and love, pain and pleasure, like 69, like Bonnie and Clyde, leaving you to wake to the smell of a burnt fantasy and a soulful poem pinned to a vacant pillow with a stained glass reflection of my need for you, devoured by its own realization. So from today forward, you can't say you were never told. I'm getting to the point, telling it to you straight. This is a one-shot warning for you to think twice, maybe even walk away, because I want you. And baby, you and I both know, in this life there ain't no time for double takes.
The Minister of Defense. Somebody put Huey P. down last night. Laid him on his very own Oakland streets. Ones he owned and ran with a tight black fist years ago. Night people run these streets now. Sons of brothers who ran with you in the leather years. When you sat on your wicker throne, 30-06 in one hand, African warrior spear in the other, 45 auto tucked in your waistband. This is the generation you tried to save, gather up off the street to pool their blackness into one bright crystal star to rock the gray boys on the hill. But your guys paid the ultimate price. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark in Chicago, George Jackson at San Quentin, Attica, Bobby Seale and Johnny Spain back in chains 100 years after the shackles were put back in the barn. But there's some new shit riding in the breeze other than your feed the poor flyers tacked to inner city trees. Young sets, cold and bloody, fighting for a piece of the Colombian rock. 50 Deuce, 8 Trey Hoover gangster Crips, Venice Showline Bloods. And they got toys you could only dream about. They are fully automatic. They got AKs, drop-top caddies, and Uzis, 9 mils, no muzzle flash, banana clips, chop scatter guns with a 10-yard spread, and they got bread, baby, big money to throw down and go round this big, wide world. They're cooking crack in penthouse and homeboy shacks all up and down this motherfucker. And they got you, Huey P. You who lived through the doogie and crank, bottle of apple and some tranks. Corner ain't what it used to be when the Panthers prowled the streets. They don't know you, man. Brother who laid it down for them, fought in the big ring with the heavy hitters, took their shots and got back up with your gloved fist high. But they got you, man. Coming back to their streets for that $10 shit that's busting up the dream you made. Just another nigger to them with a sawbuck and a Jones. Yeah, his dreamless sons laid Huey P. down last night.
December 5, Sunday, 1965, from Love is Like Rasputin. I died and went to heaven today. I got up and went to work, and Joe fell by about noon and said, yeah, Donna would drive us to the concert if we get her tickets. No problem. My skin started to crawl because I was so happy. I was going to see the Rolling Stones. Finally, 3 o'clock rolls around. I got off from work, ran home and changed clothes. Joe and Donna came by about 4, and we were off. Donna was almost as glad as we were. She drove Joe's car at least as far as Arcadia, and then Joe took over. We got to the sports arena about 5. Good thing we got there a bit early because we had to get Donna a ticket. We lucked out and got her one, and she had gotten better seats than we did. Joe and I had to split the price, which was $2.75 each. Ha! The doors finally opened, and we rushed in. And since we were all sitting in different places, we agreed to meet outside after the show, and we promised not to leave, no matter how excited we got. I found my seat in section 4A in the 12th row. I had the 10th seat in the balcony. I was sitting next to this foxy little white chick who must have been about 14. She had a pair of binoculars, a southern accent, and big titties. I struck up a conversation with her, and she said that the Rolling Stones were all right, but James Brown was better. She said that James Brown made her pussy purr. Those were her words. I was shocked by two things. One was her dirty mouth, and the other was her love for James Brown. I didn't know a cracker girl could dig James Brown that much. The lights went down, and everybody started screaming. But it wasn't the Rolling Stones. It was Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. They were great. They sung their one hit, I Sold My Heart to the Junkmen, a couple others, and then they closed with You'll Never Walk Alone. Wow. Then on comes the Vibrations. They did sort of a second-rate Coasters act, and they also did My Girl Sloopy, which was pretty good, but luckily they were through pretty quick. The lights went up, and it was intermission time again. The wait was endless. The lights went down, and then the Rolling Stones. There must have been a million flashbulbs going off at once. I've never seen anything like it. Nobody went this nuts. When I saw Round Robin a couple of years ago at the Armory in Duarte, girls were screaming and throwing their clothes on stage. And I've never seen such power. If Mick Jagger would have said, burn Los Angeles, we would have. Where was he last August? They started off with, I'm all right. And it was like some sort of jet taking off. Everything just took off from there. I felt like I was covered in the exhaust of 1,000 drum beats and 10,000 screaming guitar chords. Brian Jones was as cool as a cucumber, dressed in all green. What an ugly color, but even he made it look cool. Somebody threw up a phone book and it hit him right in the stomach while he's playing the electric organ doing Play with Fire. It didn't even faze him. I have never seen the Beatles play, but they could never top the Rolling Stones. They were playing so fast it was scary. I couldn't understand the words, but I could understand the feel. Sex, S-E-X. That is what rock and roll is. It starts at your feet, gets your feet to tapping, then it moves up the leg to the trouser snake. It makes the snake start to hiss. And then it moves up to the heart. You feel like you're going to have a heart attack. That is the Rolling Stones. By the time they got the satisfaction, the stage was littered with bras and panties. I turned to the James Brown fan, and she was pretty excited. I wanted to feel her up. Sweat and tears were running down her face, and she turned to me and said, that was something, but you got to see James Brown. Wow.
This was an experience I witnessed just about sundown, walking along the busiest part of Hollywood Boulevard. I think it was Hollywood and Highland. After a rehearsal of my band, the Sheiks of Shake, up in our soundproof basement in Laurel Canyon at that time. And I was a little jittery from the, shall we say, indulgences of the last several days and night. Noise up the sidewalk a dozen yards to the right drew my eye. Two men stood there. One was small, dark, and squirrely, leaning on a supermarket cart filled with various possessions. He was silent, but his companion was exuberantly loud with a distinctly deep South accent. Stocky, over 40, face nearly as red as his wavy, slicked-back hair. He made me think of Jerry Lee Lewis. Not he himself, but maybe an embarrassing uncle or cousin. And sure enough, this man's message to the world invoked the name of the killer, as well as one other well-known. He yelled joyfully to his small companion, "White people invented rock and roll? Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis. You'll never forget. Good golly, Miss Molly." Whoa! I hated to be a stickler for details at a moment like this, but I instantly thought to myself that, to my knowledge, neither of those gentlemen named had composed that account of Miss Molly's pursuit of happiness, but that the author was rather Little Richard Penniman. White people? This rock authorship history detail was quickly pushed from my attention as I noticed the t-shirt that the red-faced man wore. Actually, I doubt if a UFO sighting would have drawn my attention from it. No words or lettering of any kind on it, and just one black and white image on a blank yellow background. A quite clear reproduction of the snapshot of Marlon Brando's bald Colonel Kurtz character that is Martin Sheen's first glimpse of him in the film Apocalypse Now. The florid man was now enthusiastically repeating his pronouncement about who had invented rock and roll. His small, squirrely friend still did not comment on this, but a passing black teenager with windbreaker and school books under his arm, who had very likely already had more than enough social underestimation for one day in his own junior high classrooms, chose to reply, "No, we did." The Jerry Lee and Elvis enthusiast was indignant. "You did? All by yourself? Well, let me tell you something, buddy. You can stick it right up your ass, because white people invented rock and roll. Good golly, Mississippi." I left the scene thinking that I had witnessed something beyond just another Hollywood 42nd Street style slice of life. Went home, thought about my own rock and roll band, which was soon to break up, and perhaps did a little less beer consumption and a little more listening to records that night. Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, Muddy Waters, Little Richard, and, yes, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Mask after mask. Lost in that strange nation of love, where illegal movements, perfectly timed to evade true tenderness, are played for keeps. So we slip on another disc, letting the music decide which side is warm and when and where to collide. Lovers dancing the strategy of tragedy, named need. Little Latin Romeos and rayon silk Juliets, slipping on the icy stage of romance. Take curtain calls, trade costumes, fuck until the plot thickens. Now I quote the Delta Blues demon. Watch your best friends, baby, then your enemies can't do you no harm. Tourists in that strange nation of love beg for directions, rush toward blind exits, each separate moan stranded between murder and bliss. It has finally come down to this. Mask after mask, peeled off with delicate frenzy. Mask after mask, quietly regarded, hastily discarded. Mask after mask, shudder of illumination, one true healing. Mask after mask, fresh wounds and violence for dessert. Mask after mask, high desert bloom amidst flash floods. Mask after mask until our eyes reach that altitude where elemental skeletons shine with ancient laughter, as bells jingle on the spirit dancers' anklets, and the rising fire consumes our false Christian cloaks of jealousy, suspicion, doubt, greed, insanity, dis-ease, self-hatred, heartbreak, humiliation, hurt, and need.
Senorita Bambina and No Holds Barred. Hey, Senorita Bambina. Si? Mangiare. Mangiare? Mangiare comes. Comes? Mangiare tortillas. Tortillas. Y frijoles. Frijoles. Y huevos rancheros. Rancheros. Todo. Todo. Eh. Senorita Bambina, what will people think when they see you with a Mexican Italian, eh? They think I'm Latina. They speak to me in Spanish. And you say, no habla español. No habla español? Muy poquito. Poquito. Ah, Senorita Bambina, let me hold you in my arms. Ah! You're hurting me. Sitting in a coffee shop dreaming about love while the jets we bought and paid for scream up above. Sweating on the docks thinking, what's it all for? Loading up guns bound for Third World War, no holds barred. Lazy little country. Who's gonna con 'em into lunching on bullets with our names on 'em? We'd grind your babies into sausage, go the hideous rumors, just to keep the world safe for conscientious consumers, all but no holds barred. It takes a stack of Latin peasants to keep our corporations fed, but we feel real bad when the body count is red. Now, who could call us apathetic with our perfect sympathies? Of course, we might avert our eyes while they kill you by degrees. No holds barred.